All right, this is the old Doctor Who show. We are live, Dan. Dan is not live. One of us is live. So
We're not live. We're not showing up in the stream.
I think it's just on a delay. Well, there's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 50, Dan.
Hey, guys. Sorry, I had a whole bunch going on at once.
He had a lot going on, so we are about to begin.
And prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Do I have to play the song? I think you have to probably play the song.
Okay, this is super distracting because I have several windows going at once here, and I can't tell what's happening.
What if I just kept this face? All right, welcome to the old Doctor Who show, your classic online Doctor Who review.
Guys, here's
even
the thing.
Live, I would mess that thing up.
It never goes successfully in one take ever. So This is all real. Let's just try that again from the top.
Well, we are back with our 50th anniversary. Not our 50th anniversary. We haven't been around that long, but our 50th episode, which is a pretty big deal. This is we are going on 3 years. How was your 3 weeks, Dan, since we last talked?
That's pretty nice. Pretty
Segue.
Good 3 weeks. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so I'm glad that people are able to join us. Basically, what we're going to be doing is our regular show, but without all the edits. So it's
there's going to be no edits, very few effects. Every once in a while, I may whip out a horn. What you didn't see before was I had a whole mask set up. Maybe the mask will come back. We don't know. We've got people already in the chat or wherever. If you have questions for us, we're just going to do our normal review, and then at the end we'll just go through the questions. That makes the most sense, right? We'll be watching it, but we probably won't. If we don't respond to you, we will respond to you at the end. That's basically the long way of getting to it. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get into the review? Because I don't. Because everything was just building up.
That's not entirely true. You've got a household full of people who are maniacs about Halloween, so you've got that going on.
We do. We get pretty serious about Halloween.
I mean,
and that's also kind of a nice thing to use if you're going to kidnap somebody, because you already have the built-in, except it only does like a 30-second clip, so it makes it kind of hard, because then they hear your real voice, because you're like, give me the money or we're going to send you a thumb. But they've already heard you, so, But it's the little things.
But you use what's at hand, which is
we do.
Really impressive. Let's just jump into this thing, because I'm excited about doing this review and about this story. So.
Yeah, let's get into it. This is the 5 Doctors, or technically the 4 Doctors, which we'll talk about. Do you want to hit the button? We don't have a button to hit.
Let's hit the button.
We don't have the sound effects, so we're just coming right into it. Dan, tell us about the 5 Doctors.
A mysterious figure is pulling all of the incarnations of the Doctor out of time, placing them in an ancient game in the Death Zone on Gallifrey. These Doctors and some of their iconic companions must work together to prevent an enemy from gaining dominion over the Time Lords for all of eternity. This is a story written by Terry Dix. No one calls him that. Directed by Peter Moffat and produced by JNT. It premiered on the 23rd of November in 1983, and I believe it was as a Children in Need special at the time.
Now, this was a 1-part movie, or was this broadcast in 4 parts?
Nope, it was one single continuous 90-minute story, which was kind of cool to watch. I watched it on the DVD, which I don't normally do. It was not available on BritBox, so I'm sure you guys already knew that if you were trying to watch it along with us. You probably already have a copy.
Yeah,
I've never seen it before.
I got a question. Right. I have a question for you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
You had brought to my attention, because I also watched it on DVD. I had a friend who lent me, this is a European DVD, so that was a whole ordeal to try to get the right region. But I guess I watched the Enhanced edition, which you told me that some of the effects were different. Was it only the space scoop that was changed?
Come on, let's get
Were there other things that were...
too. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't watch the original. I don't know if you at home watching this also watch the version I did, or but story wise it's the same, right? It was just an enhanced effects.
Yeah, the story is the same. I know that there were a couple additional scenes. I'm not sure if they were shot and available. I'm not sure if they were put into the version that you saw or if there's like an extended version as well. Very minor stuff. So I watched the regular version. I did watch it with like the little info text at the bottom. It gave some kind of cool information as it went, but without being like an audio track or something. So it was kind of cool. But
it's like a pop up. Did you know that this was made out of a ham sandwich? That kind of
everything was about ham sandwiches for some reason. It made a sound.
All right. Well, enough of that. What did you think of this show? The story.
Hey, I thought it was a really cool story. I'll give it that. A lot of build up for what ended up being a pretty standard story, though. You know what I mean? Like I was excited having the five doctors, but the actual workings of the story and how all the actual overall plot itself and how they all came together was pretty standard. But the fact that you had 4 of the doctors actually participating in this, a 5th doctor who was sort of involved in a way,
he was
and
not
then
yet.
all of these companions that we haven't seen in forever. Which is actually even better because, as we know, this is our 50th review, and there's probably been 3 times as many stories up to this point, and we don't actually watch all of them. Everyone knows this; we've said this 1,000 times. But for us, we actually have seen all of the companions that were present in here. There weren't any where it was like, "Oh, who the heck is that?" We just never ran across them before. We have seen, Zoe and Jamie and Romana, of course, etc. So that was actually kind of cool that we at least had that amount of continuity. So what was I saying? I was saying that I think it was a really great story because of the performances of all these people coming together and the novelty of it. If it weren't for that, it would probably be a pretty good story. That's my opinion. What about you?
I love this from like the moment it started. Well, it was such like a love letter to classic Doctor Who, and I know that's an overused term, but I'm going to use it anyway because that's how I felt. And you're right, the story's not perfect and there's full of flaws, but while I was watching it and seeing, like, it opens with a clip from the first Doctor who's not alive, where he can't be in it.
Yeah.
Which was really nice. It's also
great.
Also, I'll point out, like, fans of this show will notice we've got several audio clips in our theme song of the Doctors, and 3 of them are actually from this episode, which I was not aware of.
Yeah, so I was actually I had a note of that because I wanted to know how many. You didn't pull them from this story, though. You actually
I found them like I found them online. I had like a Doctor Who audio file zip for years that I would have, and so someone else had probably obviously pulled them from this. Although the first one's from it.
Them all together.
Yeah, it was cool to hear them, but just from that and just having Hartnell in it, even though he couldn't have been, and they did that little cold opening bit, I was like, yes. And then when I saw the Brigadier, I was like, even the beginning where you have like Power Pop Turlo, like with his suit, like sketching or whatever he's doing, like even that I was still on board. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't know. I just loved seeing Zoe, and I loved like all these like characters, and it is a very much like, oh, remember this person or remember this person, and like things were thrown in there just to be done. But I bought into it. I was like,
that is fine with me too. I mean, it was fan service before that became like a real term. It was,
it had Clash of the Titans style miniature people. Like I would love. I don't know if anybody sells that set, but I would love like the little figures. And you think about the spoiler, the president on Gallifrey is the villain. Like, how long did he spend just crafting them? Like, did he have to put an order through? That probably would raise a couple of red flags that it's not on the up and up. Like, was it the same? So that was very cool.
Okay, well, so let's come back to that then. I mean, we can kind of go through this in our typical non-sequential way. But so when I first saw the miniatures happening, the time scoop comes, picks them up, and you see the miniatures, and you saw a black gloved hand controlling the tool. Mm-hmm. Like, you thought it was the Master right away, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I was like, it's probably the Master, and that was a cool flip. And
yes, yeah.
And just like to talk more about the love letter aspect of it, like I just forget how much I love John Pertwee, you know. And then once he's in it on Bessie, like I just miss that. And Troughton, we really didn't cover enough Troughton stories, But
Not
seeing
yet.
him with that dumb haircut and everything, and even the way he sort of does he throws shade on John Pertwee, like in the beginning, where they're talking about like the person that followed you or whatever. He's like, yeah, I forget. He says my replacement was pretty unpromising too. Like there was just, you could tell Terrence Dicks loves Doctor Who, from the script, and it was nice to be back with these people because we've been sort of down on Davison a little bit, and I will say those were my least favorite parts of this were his parts for the most part. I mean, I just loved.
I think that this story had some of his better performances, or at least for me, more likable performances.
I'll give you that, but
seen in the past,
right?
So in that way, like even if we didn't have all the fan service, I'm going to say love letter because I like that much better than saying fan service because that seems like it's manipulative. I think this really was, you're right, a love letter. Everyone involved, obviously, greatly loves and respects the show, so that was great. So even if it weren't for all of these special appearances, it was just a good Davison story because he wasn't a jerk the whole time. Not the whole time.
Although, like, we talk about how the Doctor and Tegan are always sort of fighting for no reason, and then they bring on the first Doctor, who instantly, and him and Tegan are not getting along either. No. Like he's yelling at her, like, "Go get me a sandwich, or go get me a drink, or get us all drinks." And it was a little weird. And then later they fight, and then they have like a weird moment where she's like, "I'm coming with you," and he's like, "Do you have to?" And she's like, "Yes." He's like, "Thank you." Or that's like a weird. He's got some weird readings that.
Well, that's a good point, though. I mean, that's a good point because the first Doctor really wasn't cuddly at all. Like he really was, at least for the few that we've seen, and
he's a curmudgeonly type of character. And I thought the guy did I should know the actor's name, but he did a pretty good job playing the first.
Okay, so the fact that we had that cold open with Hartnell was just wonderful because it really set the tone and was great. And then you pretty much right away see this other actor come in to fill the role, and you see it from a long shot from the back, so you can kind of buy into it little by little, as opposed to like here's 1 versus 2 and just put them next to each other. So that was cool. So okay, let's start here. The time scoop, the effect. Did you go look it up on YouTube?
I did not see the original effect. The effect I saw was not great either. So
what you saw was very similar to like early Star Trek Next Generation, where it's like, oh, we kind of figure out how computer animation works, but not really great yet.
Okay.
The one that's in the original broadcast version is just a black triangle that flips. That's it. It just flips. It is very similar to Superman.
But do you see the characters in the black triangle, like trapped?
Okay, so it's a black triangle that's flipping through the air. Whenever it kind of scoops them up, then there's a freeze frame of them. For the most part, all of them going like that.
I kind of wish I saw that.
Which is fine. You should see it, except for Baker and Romana. That one doesn't have them doing that because, as everyone knows, Tom Baker decided he didn't want to participate in this, so they used old footage from Shada, which never actually aired. So they had to kind of contrive that. So the shot of the two of them inside the triangle when it pulls away is like two of them in a parlor. Like the background makes no sense at all. It's just them kind of hanging out. And you see that whenever you see that they're trapped inside the time stream, and the lines on the monitor get all wavy because they're kind of in this indeterminate state in between. It's just them hanging out in like a library or something. It makes no sense at all.
Hold on, stop though, because I obviously when I watched it, I was like, oh, Tom Baker said you get 1 day, but you're saying he wasn't even in it at all.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know it was old footage from another storyline.
Participate at all. The only way he participated was signing a contract allowing them to use the old footage that never aired.
Okay.
Did not.
All right.
He apparently this is just a very Tom Baker thing, and I didn't do this is just from what I was reading before the show and during the DVD, but they were going to do it. Terrence Dicks went to him. Oh no, I think JNT went to him with the script in progress. Here's the first half of the script. Here's what we're thinking of doing, and he just kept saying, until we fix the story or the script problems, I'm not going to do it. And
so he wasn't
kind of a power play sort of thing.
Gotcha. All right.
Some of the things that the Fifth Doctor does were actually things that it was going to be the Fourth Doctor. and Sarah Jane was actually going to be going with Tom Baker throughout,
And not the Brigadier.
and
I mean,
yes,
I'm sorry, and not Pertwee.
and not Pertwee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so things had to shift as we did that. How do you
Wait,
do
so
you think-
how much information did you get? Did we know who was going to be with Pertwee? Was it going to be Joe? Was she going to come back, or they didn't even get that far?
Oh geez, I did see that. Now I don't recall.
Okay,
I
doesn't
think it was
matter.
the ones that were already in it. I think it just shuffled. Everyone just kind of
But
shuffled.
I thought the way that they did the companions was actually really cool. Like I also freaked out when I was like, "There's Susan." Like I was not expecting to see Susan, and then we get Susan, and you get the Brigadier and Second Doctor, and that was a cool coupling. And I liked seeing Sarah Jane with actually Pertwee.
With Pertwee, I thought that was.
I thought
really
everything
nice.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been so obvious to have Sarah Jane and the Fourth Doctor together because they spent so much time in the show together. It was nice to remember, like, oh yeah, she was with the Third Doctor for a while and she saw the regeneration. So that was I thought that was lovely and actually worked out really well.
They play the companion. The way they use the companions was great too. Like just the dialogue and stuff that they have, like, oh, which one's yours? When Tegan and Sarah Jane are sort of comparing notes about going around with the Doctor.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is, the Third Doctor Pertwee is trying to get Sarah Jane up a hill that's not that steep, and he ties her to the car and drags her.
There was
that is
absolutely
the
no need
worst
for that.
idea. That is not safe.
Okay,
for her.
I'm guessing. I think it's unwritten in the actual story, but Sarah Jane has an inner ear infection and can't stand up straight. When she leaves K9. Oh, K9's another companion that gets to show up for a moment.
we see him for a bit. We get a lot of little like bit things,
He's
which
a
is cool.
voice actor too, so he voiced K9 for this as well. But so Sarah Jane leaves her house after being warned by K9 there's going to be danger, and when she gets scooped up by the time scoop, what was she doing? She turns and walks 3 steps and like trips over her own feet, but just kind of wiggles in space and doesn't. So I'm guessing it's inner ear infection. She couldn't walk up the slightly inclined hill that she was lying on.
I'm going to jump to the very end at this point because we're talking about Sarah Jane. Did she not realize they were all the Doctors? It sounds like a silly question, but at the end, when she talks to Peter Davison, or the Fifth Doctor, she says, "It's nice meeting you." And then Pertwee turns to her and says, "It was nice meeting you too." And she looks confused and he's like, "I'll explain it to you later." Like she doesn't realize that they're all incarnations of the same man.
I think you're reading too much into a silly joke. I think it was just a bad joke, and they didn't need that last line.
I did not think that she wasn't aware until that part, and then I was like, "What does that mean?" I don't even understand it as a joke, though. Why is it a joke?
Well, it's a joke because you expect the Fifth Doctor to respond. But
no, I get that, but that would make sense if she didn't know as a joke. But if she knows, she'd be like, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I just think she didn't find the dumb joke funny. That's
gotcha.
Basically.
And the Fifth Doctor was not going to say anything about it. He was just going to let them have their little moment and walk away.
Yes. I mean, it is. I like, but I'm also kind of puzzled by how much they snipe at each other, especially the Second and Third Doctors. They really go at each other the whole time, and not in a bad way, but like they tease each other more than anyone else has ever kind of done that.
All the chemistry was really, really cool. A lot of fur coats, more fur coats than I remember. Was that a thing with Troughton? I guess that was part of his shtick, was the giant fur coat, because I don't remember that from Mind Robber, but maybe it had been.
No, he had. Yes, I've seen other stills of him with that. So,
and I like how there was lots of callbacks that were to shows that we had seen that were really cool. Like when they talk about Omega, that's the last time all the Doctors were together, and the 3 Doctors. But even more so was the Brigadier. The fact that we went through that story where he's already met Tegan in the past, was awesome, because it was like, of course, it all made sense. Like, of course, he would also know her from the time that she went back to the 70s. So
I was actually impressed that he remembered her name. He was like Miss Javanka. Like that was pretty great. Yeah, I mean, it is nice how that continuity works.
There wasn't any part that sort of was didn't make sense. Like it all sort of worked in the whole world, even the egg cartons on the head of the Time Lords. I mean, they gotta update those costumes. Like all the Time Lords, you know what I'm talking about? They have like egg cartons that were bedazzled or put a little Elmer's glue and some nice glitter around. Like they gotta upgrade that whole line.
Yeah, well, the children of England spent time putting those together for them. So
Yeah.
that's how public broadcasting works.
You love all the lore, right? So you've got Rassilon going on here. That's right up your alley. But also, what I thought was interesting is the Time Lords are allowed to reset someone's regeneration cycles because that's
Well, yes, they are.
all right. So the
I guess
whole
they say that for that's what they're offering the master to go and help them.
yeah,
right?
he's gonna right. He's gonna get pardoned,
Yes.
and then I think they also reset him. So
Okay.
he,
So
13.
I don't know that we've
whatever.
ever seen that, or if that's come up in the lore since, or sorry, before that point. I know it has since. I mean, obviously in the most recent series of New Who, they have.
Yeah,
talked
but
about
didn't
that.
he have to
I
go to
don't know
the
that we ever did that before.
Sisters of Karn or whatever to get the? He didn't really
no,
need.
That was so that he could choose the
Okay.
incarnation he wanted to be. So that was separate.
All
Okay,
right.
but anyway, yeah,
Doesn't
so,
matter.
but
It was interesting because I always thought that was a big roadblock, but obviously it isn't. If the Time Lords can do it, you can figure it out somehow. So it's not. Who cares how many regenerations you have?
It is weird that they kind of throw that in there, but overall, so I did have some problems with the plot, I guess,
Okay.
or questions. Maybe you can help clarify.
Questions.
Questions.
What do you got?
So, what is the president's whole deal? So, like back up.
He wants to be God Emperor.
Yes, no, I get that. Not on a high level.
Okay.
Not at a strategic level, at a tactical level. Why did he get all of the doctors from time and space into the death zone? He states that it's in order to clear out the obstacles for him, so that so he can go straight into the Tomb of Rassilon. Couldn't you just scoop up
one of them?
Various creatures from around, like millions of creatures from around the galaxy, and just have them set off all the traps instead of having the most feared and powerful Time Lord, but not just one.
Yeah, but
5 of him.
Right, because only the Doctor would be able to get to the Tomb of Rassilon is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Many have tried and they've all failed, and they've been sending Time Lords there.
Well, they sent
and
2
they've
to
died.
investigate. Yes.
Yeah. So even the Master sees the body of another person. So I feel like
send in waves of millions because he doesn't care. Why?
He may have been doing it for a while. They may not be the only 2 failed Time Lords that he's tried, and now he's going to get the best in the world to go and do it.
So is that why the Cybermen and there was a Dalek there? Is that why they were there, you think? Because normally they say in this that so this stems back to the dark days of the Time Lords. They had this death zone, which is basically a big Coliseum arena where they would
stop. Hold on. Pause. Just for another question for you, or just in the air.
Sure.
This place, we never saw the War Games, and there's references to the War Games. Is this a place we've already gone to in the show, the War Games, or the storyline, the War Games?
I did not see any reference to that. That's not one we've seen, so I don't know. But in my
Troughton, I think
I was doing, I didn't see anything about that.
I think Troughton and Pertwee both mention War Games or the war, and as far as I know, War Games was a place where I think they took a bunch of enemies, and I didn't know if this is that place, and we're just going back to it or not, and just I didn't know if you knew. So go on, because I'm confusing things.
On the live chat, Stephen Hutchins says no. War Games is different. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. We should do this more often. We have live fact checking.
You guys are fantastic.
Fake news. All right.
Okay, so that's interesting. So anyway, so as I was saying, they mentioned that they scooped up creatures from around the galaxy or universe in different times and put them together to fight, but they would never have Daleks or Cybermen there because they were too good at playing the game. So I guess with your theory then that the president could have been picking up creatures from all over and actually picked up some Cybermen and Daleks in order to do this, and that didn't work, so that's why he went for the doctors.
Yeah, what I was going to say to you when you brought that up was that's the part I don't understand, why they were bringing Cybermen and why not just let him get to the thing and then zoom in and take the ring.
Right. So I don't think that was a trap set for them, because that wouldn't make any sense. It was maybe a failed previous attempt that we don't see. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Just a question.
But the Cybermen are acting as if they're on a mission, and they say like they're being told to do something by someone. So then it was like, was that part of the elaborate plot of the president? I don't know. That was the one part I wasn't quite sure. And we say that the Daleks are in it, but there's only one Dalek in it.
We don't know. There may have been more. Who knows?
Yeah, but we don't.
Just the one. that we see.
And I'd heard or read or something there was going to be more enemies like the Autons. Autons?
Yeah.
The
yes, that's
last
right.
people were supposed to be in it, and then they got cut or for whatever reason.
It was actually that was the original. That was how Sarah Jane was going to get introduced to the fourth Doctor. I think it was back when that was part of the script.
Okay.
Instead of walking down that road and tumbling down a very slight incline, she was supposed to be going through like a town that was kind of like abandoned and kind of war torn, and walking through it and seeing bodies on the ground, but they end up being just mannequins. So she's like, oh, it's just mannequins, but then some of them actually end up being Autons, and then the Doctor saves her, blah, blah, blah. That would have been much better than her slipping slightly down a hill.
Yeah. But I liked, too, that we get to see the first Doctor and the current Doctor working together, which obviously reminded me of the Christmas special that's coming up, where we get the first Doctor and the current Doctor working together. So I just liked how they balanced out all of the characters together. The only part that felt like, well, do we need it or not need it was... Power Pop Turlough. He's with Susan, right?
How did you feel whenever you saw Turlough on the screen? Because we had said in our last review, it was like,
I know, I was disappointed. I thought he might have been gone, and I was like, oh, we got past it without seeing it. But
get Turlough, we got emo Power Pop Turlough hanging out. He didn't have a whole lot to do, so him and Susan hanging out together was okay. Like they're just for a show where I have anyway constantly commented on. It doesn't feel like they give enough for each character to do. So when they have too many companions, some of them end up suffering. At least there was plenty for everyone to do here, except Turlough. And that's
their whole role was, and it still made sense. And that's another hat tip to the writing was, okay, of course, Susan would know how to fly the TARDIS. So that made sense for her to, and again, they're only waiting there for Pertwee to reverse the neutron flow or whatever and lower the shield. And then they're able to fly to the tomb. So, I mean, they had something to do. They just didn't really move the plot forward until they were, in case of emergency, break glass, and then Turlough will fly you out. But speaking of enemies, even though we weren't, who are the skin tight robot Daft Punk looking ninja people? Because I want them all the time.
So
where
that was a Raston warrior robot, which this is the first appearance, and I guess they come back in some other like novelizations or something. I don't know.
They should come back all day long.
I thought it was an awesome looking and moving enemy. It was actually performed by a professional dancer. So like just the way that
I believe that
was pretty great until he jumps up in the air and freeze frames.
Because it looked like the end of like a Mentos commercial or something, or like Skittles were gonna explode behind him, and like him just like throwing the Chinese stars and the javelins through people and
Chinese stars.
Didn't he throws the spears, but I thought at one point he had smaller.
No, I didn't. Maybe in your version.
That was probably in my version in my head that was playing. But I thought he was so cool.
Yeah.
And like
just took out all of the Cybermen, just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Took them all out. It was pretty amazing.
Inappropriate skin tight, the silver suit of just where everything was showing. It was good stuff.
I had no problems with that. It was all right.
And he decapitated a Cyberman. That was a little violent, I thought, where
that last
he literally cuts the head off of the Cyberman.
Just did a Mortal Kombat style.
He did. It was his finishing move.
Finish him.
Okay, so we're kind of all over the place, but so all the doctors, again, as you're saying, out of time, they get stuck into this zone. They see the castle of Rassilon. So Rassilon's these uber powerful Time Lord that we've heard about many times. This is where he was either died and entombed, or maybe he was still alive. They're not sure about how powerful he was. So there's some chance maybe he's still alive. There's 3 ways to get in, convenient. So there's each group is going to take a different way.
Right.
Now the Tegan and the first Doctor go, and they get to like a chessboard thing.
Oh wait, no. I want to stop. Back up. You're saying the entrance though. We had 3 entrances. The one
the basement.
The one at the top of the tower, which like how do you get to them? And we can talk about how they got there. One beneath, and how are you actually going to find it? And there's a Yeti down there. But the main entrance, it was literally a doorbell. It was like, how hard is it to get into this place when you just open the thing and hit the doorbell?
Yeah, why didn't they all just go in the front door? I don't. It does not matter. But what I was going to get to just is, this whole chessboard. The master knows it. And he figures it out, and he tricks the Cybermen. They all die. But that's not my question.
I want to come back to that. but
Hartnell, not Hartnell, Hartnell replacement,
Yes.
Hartnell 2.0,
Hartnell.
realizes it's pi to get through it, and they're like, okay, 3.14159265, and then they walk. I don't understand how they were using pi. It didn't look like
about this.
Was it their steps? Were they
You wanna
going
hear about
3?
it?
Yes, because I
Okay.
did not get it.
Yeah. So apparently this guy is great. I think he did a really nice job of portraying the First Doctor and all of his mannerisms, etc. Apparently he's not great at remembering lines. So when he had to read out the numbers of pi, he kept getting it wrong. So they did like a take where they could just fill in anything, and they had to do ADR later to put the right numbers in. He had to like call
Yes.
in at some point to put the right ones in. So they kept doing this, and that take, he goes through it all and then just walks across the chessboard. That was not intended. He was actually, what was supposed to happen is, 3.14. So it's the third one in the first row, and it's supposed to be some sort of mathematical thing.
That's where, yeah, that sort of made sense.
Yes, that's also supposed to happen. The actor just walked across.
Well,
They didn't have time to reshoot
it.
So
Okay.
they just took it. That's all. It's
That's fine, but the master who has shown how to do it before is not doing that either. He's not moving 3 and over 1. He's just running over the thing.
Well, it seemed more like the master was jumping to particular spots.
Right.
It did seem that way.
And that's fine. And it was mostly the First Doctor and Tegan, because I was like, okay, I'm expecting him to go 3 over, 1 over. Yeah, look at that. The old Doctor Who. Dan, say something, because they can't see unless you talk.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Just for the people on the live stream, especially those that are here right now. Hey, look, it's the Doctor Who mug.
Yeah, mine is in the dishwasher, else I would be drinking instead of drinking Canada Dry.
Canada Dry, the only soft.
I like seltzer. That's my thing.
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
I was saying the First Doctor, some of his readings were a little odd too, I found. Although I did like him.
I did
some
too.
of his intonations and stuff about how I couldn't quite, does he understand the line maybe? And it was like a weird sort of pacing, especially when he's talking to Tegan. Like I couldn't tell, like, does he hate Tegan or is he genuinely happy that she's coming with him?
Yeah.
You know, there's that exchange, and he's like, it's like, okay, well, I couldn't quite figure it out.
All incarnations of the Doctors just don't like Australians.
It's a thing. It goes right back to the penal colony. Yeah, it's not cool.
Okay, so coming back to the main story, unless you wanted to.
No, I was just going to talk about the Master, who I loved. I thought the Master was awesome in this, but no wonder he's bad, because he just gets abandoned. The Doctor, like, they're attacked by Cybermen.
Yeah.
And he steals his escape thing, and just Peter Davison's out, and he's just left there in the battlefield to die.
Even more than that, because okay, sure, that doesn't make sense, because this whole friend-enemy dynamic they've had for ages, that you would expect him to at least try to help and get him out of danger. He also leaves Susan and who was Susan with at the time? Was she with Tegan?
At that time?
Yeah, she was with Tegan.
Tegan, yeah.
Leaves them there at the same time. Yes, it was Susan and Tegan.
Yeah, because he's like,
the
run and
surrounding them, and they're just right there, and he's like, okay, bye. Hope you
he
run away.
That's what I mean. Like he
would do that.
And he goes, and I guess he goes to Gallifrey, and he's sort of the guy that figures out who's the who's behind it, but he doesn't really. I mean, he solves the riddle of the harp,
right?
And that was cool. So he's playing the thing, and then he goes,
because he went to the president's room and saw that he had slipped away. So he knew.
Right. So I you're right. I shouldn't just say it. I was going to say it felt more like happenstance that he happened to do that and figure out, because when he sees him there, but you're right, because he does know to go to his room. So.
Because when the council is all together and the guards have discovered the black scrolls of Rassilon, this protected knowledge, this dangerous knowledge that bursts into flames.
Yeah, the instant burn.
The Doctor does notice that the Castellan doesn't look like a guilty man. He looks like someone who's horrified by.
Didn't we see this with Castellan before, where you think Castellan's bad, but then he's not? It's like I felt like we just
kind of bad.
But he's not the villain.
No, he's not the villain.
They play it like he is, and it turns out he isn't. I felt like that plot was like, we've seen that before. Exact thing with the same actor.
And the same thing with like the president and all that. Yeah, that I actually have it in my notes. Like, oh no, we have Time Lord High Council intrigue.
Yeah, and I immediately knew the president was. It was like, okay, of course it's the. Okay,
Yeah.
So that was was not as fun. But
No.
we did get Patrick Troughton with a bunch of stuff in his pockets, and I never get tired of the old "there's a bunch of weird stuff in my pockets" gag.
Yeah.
Like, I could watch the Doctor do that all day long.
It to the point where he like pulled out the fireworks was pretty cool.
Yes.
Like all of that was pretty awesome. I liked having the you said this before, but I just want to reiterate. I really like the pairing of the Brigadier and the Second Doctor
Mhm.
together. I just their exchange and interplay is really great. Apparently a lot of what not a lot, but some of the interstitial stuff is just ad-libbing by both of them as
Okay.
they're going. Like whenever they actually get caved in by the Yeti and they discover there's the door in the back. That whole like, you go ahead, no, after you, that sort of thing. That was just the two of them kind of playing. So it's nice because you can actually see some real chemistry between these actors who probably haven't had a chance to work with each other in,
Yes, since the last
nice.
special. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great. And the referring to the Second Doctor as the Scarecrow. I think
Yeah.
Pertwee calls him the Scarecrow,
Yes,
right,
that's right.
at the end.
Yep.
That was really cool. I
Yeah.
don't know. I totally get. It's not perfect, and it's sort of. It's not the best, most engaging story in the world, but I loved it so much just from getting a chance to spend time with these people again.
Yeah. I still feel like the story was a little bit overcomplicated, or not the story itself. The president's whole
His plan.
plot was.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, except for like I wasn't. Did he bring the Cybermen in or not? And like, well, why is he trying to stop them from achieving the goal that he wants them to achieve?
Yeah.
Or does Rassilon bring in the enemies as a defense mechanism against people reaching it?
Yeah, I don't see why he would. I kind of like the reading that we just came up with, that this was his first attempt, his first or his previous attempts before bringing in the Doctors, because
right, and they're just
remnants
remnants of that.
Yeah, it doesn't
The
make
Cybermen at one point say the balls are ready, and I don't know why I wrote that down, but I have quote the balls are ready, Cybermen. So that happened.
I have no recollection. Did you fall asleep for a little bit while you were?
was blacking out. But the Brigadier, again, we talk about the Brigadier being awesome. He does deck the Master, and that's a great moment, like where he gets to knock him out.
Yeah. Well, again, these are the little factoids I picked up while watching this. Apparently, it was scripted that Tegan, or maybe it was Sarah Jane, one of the women, was supposed to high kick him instead.
Oh, okay.
That would have been so much better, but that's still cool.
Yeah.
The break.
So as far as our cameos, we got
we didn't talk about all the
Liz Shaw. We got Liz Shaw. We didn't talk about her.
So we had these
with Yates.
Yes, Mike Yates.
Yes,
Captain
Mike Yates, which we both had been fans of when we did that. Liz Shaw didn't get enough time on this show. That's all.
I could say that again. Yes, Liz Shaw was a great companion. I feel underrated. Maybe just because we didn't get to see enough of her. I don't know how she's regarded in the rest of Doctor.
Yeah, she's only on a season, so it's not like there's even that many stories that we did miss with her. Zoe was great to see again, who is like she was like that super spy
scientist was what she was.
Wasn't she like a space agent of some kind?
Scientist.
Was
I
she?
don't recall exactly. That's what I had to go back and look to see if we had seen.
Okay.
Before,
She's in the mine. She's in the Mine Robber.
She's the Mind Robber. Yeah.
With
Jamie.
What's his name?
Jamie McCrimmon, which was kind of awesome. So we got.
Well, what's his character's name? Jamie. I thought you said Mimi. I thought you said Mimi Crimmin. That's what I heard over the thing. I was like, all right, I thought that was the actor's name. I was like, okay, Mimi is a weird name, or maybe that's what his grandkids call him. But
no, so we got Jamie and Zoe. I liked the whole. It was nice to be able to pull in these cameos and really just treat them as cameos, just these little self-contained things under the story plot point of the mind of Rassilon kind of intensifying fear, and these are phantom apparitions. Like that was really nice to be able to just get these people to pop up and say hi.
Yeah, just like a little cameo, which was cool, and I'm glad to see. I didn't expect to see as many faces as we did. Yeah. It's not a new idea. We've seen that already. Adric I forget what episode we see Adric. I think it's the one after he died.
Yes, yeah,
he was using a similar way to trick people into, but still, it was cool. I liked seeing all those people again.
I do like also that the first Doctor just didn't even deal with the fear. He's like, I'm too old to deal with this fear.
He's just totally broken. It's like, I'm not even me anymore. Yeah.
Well, in point of fact, though, he's the youngest of the Doctors. But he says, at my age, fear something or other not being relevant anymore, but he's actually the youngest one. To that point, sort of, not really. The Castellan says that the reason that they called the Master in to help is because the Doctor no longer exists in any of his incarnations throughout time. But we're only seeing the first 5 Doctors. Does that mean anything to you?
No,
Is it just a thing like, okay, this is what happened at the time, so we don't have to worry about it? But they knew it was going to continue, or they should have at least presumed that there'd be at least one more Doctor, because it's really soon from here that we get the 6th Doctor comes. He's coming real soon, so they must have had some inclination not to even mention it, to even say like they did with 4th Doctor. Oh, these other ones are caught in caught in the vortex or something.
Right.
An indeterminate number of other Doctor incarnations. They have to be.
Yeah, I mean that's when you start to get into, if they're all existing. It's
all right. I'm just gonna throw
don't pull that thread, Dan.
I'm putting this into the chat, folks. Just let me know what you think about this. What about the other Doctors? And anyway, I just thought that it's an interesting thing, and it definitely is a rabbit hole that I'm sure people have written doctoral theses about. So who knows?
Now, Tegan was not pregnant, right? Did that come up in your documentary? I say that only because when she first comes on screen, she had a glow about her, and I was like, oh, I wonder if the actress was pregnant at the time.
No, that's the enhanced version of the DVD that you
I was going.
You had pregnancy glow on.
She had sort of a glow to her. Just throw that out there. I didn't know if I thought you were going to say yes. It was in the documentary, and then
that would be amazing. But that's not at all. I didn't say anything about it. I love it though.
Pertwee, however, was pregnant at the time.
He was pregnant. Yeah, he was.
So another question I had was with if all these Doctors are pulled from time and different, where are their TARDISes?
Well, we see them at the end.
They all get into one.
They all get into one,
and then they leave.
Splinters off. I think I was.
But I'm saying, like, where are their individual ones just left? Well, I guess it's the moment they leave is the moment they return to. So in that sense, they're not just sitting around.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
But I'm just thinking, like, it's one man through time, but the TARDIS also exists through time. So
right,
it doesn't matter. Stupid.
No,
stupid.
It's just as stupid as what about the 6th through 13th Doctors? I mean, I don't know. That's pretty interesting.
Right.
Where those Tardai are.
Do you have anything else? I think we feel like we've covered everything.
Covered most of it. I mean, I still think it's kind of crazy that they would bring in the Master to help with the Doctor, to the point that whenever they talk to him about what they're planning on doing, they're basically like, yeah, you're a psychopath, you're the most evil being in all of time and space, but we could really use your help on this. You could do us a solid. It just seems like, I mean, I guess he's the next smartest or next most capable Time Lord there is, but it still seemed like quite the setup in order to get the Master to have a role in this. But
right,
I was happy with the result of it, so it doesn't really matter. Just a weird thing at the time. It just seemed that they were even putting a flashing light on it, like, you're the most evil thing in the world. It just seemed like a little bit over the top and then nasty.
How did you like the resolution of the president getting his monkey's paw wish come true, where he's gonna have immortality and his face is stuck? I loved seeing that, like when you first see the body of Rassilon and you're like, hey, there's a big area that's missing. That it's like, is that an oversight? Would they run out of money? Because with this show, it could be that they just ran out of money. But I liked how that would fit in, and they were waiting for the next person. Now that someone comes out after that, you got to get a contractor in there. You got to build a larger, like, where are you going to put that next face? But I know that was cool.
The effect of the faces being stoned and then materializing, and there's like,
oh, it looked fine. I mean,
I liked it.
I saw the enhanced version, so I don't know if that was an enhanced effect, but what the version I saw looked cool. So,
okay, I should check that. The one that the original broadcast, those Halloween masks that are clear plastic.
Yeah,
just have a mustache on them and some wrinkles, and you just put over your face.
Mm-hmm.
It was those.
It kind of looked like that. I mean, they may not have even modified it.
Okay. So it was a little bit like, oh, okay, but I like the overall effect of it.
But you could see people like alive.
Yeah, they were alive. Their eyes are moving like crazy, and that was pretty cool. But I like that your description of it was like a monkey's paw or like an O. Henry sort of thing, because they read the old Gallifreyan. That moment actually when they all get into the crypt and they're reading the whatever that thing is, the little monument, the little stone monument that has the old Gallifreyan.
Yeah, like that monolith.
And they have the 3 of the Doctors there, kind of squabbling with each other.
Yeah,
as they're trying to read it. Like, it's a really good moment, and it's just that is probably my favorite moment of just love letter fan service that happens.
And it was cool.
You got to see those three work together. Then you get the fifth one coming in, and we didn't even talk about the whole mind control thing that happens too.
Yeah, that was another thing that was not as interesting. Like I was like, okay, he had the headband of Rassilon or something, right? Or like I'm wearing the headband, kneel for me or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it
was a little weird.
It makes sense. I mean, it fits in some of the lore. I mean, I guess, but like it felt like, okay, this is just the most expedient way to get us to where we need to go for the story, because that was like 10 minutes left in the story that we even get to that point. So.
Yeah, but with going back to the trick or the switch when you get the ring, I like that the first Doctor is the only one that really knew. Oh yeah, let him get, like, he was aware of how this thing was going to play out because he understood I don't remember what it was, like the old poem or something, and it was like the losers win and the winners lose or something. Basically, but I like that he sort of had one up on the newer models. So that was cool.
It is strange that he's like the one that is the wisest, but he's also the youngest in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah. We also didn't. I just looking through my notes here to make sure we didn't miss anything. Well, at the end, I mean, the very end, the Doctors get into their TARDISes and they each split off and fly away. And Tegan asks the Doctor if they, after the Doctor, he's being made president, and he's saying that, this counselor can stay behind and act as president until he returns. And Tegan says, "Are we really going to run off in this rickety old TARDIS?" And the Doctor says, "Why not? After all, that's how it all started."
Yeah, that was
awesome. So good. Such a really great moment.
That's what I mean. Like, this was just such a perfect episode. I found it a perfect episode for an anniversary year, and like I thought they did it really well, and they used everybody. And it stinks about Tom Baker being Tom Baker and not wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah,
it was kind of good in a way not to have him, because you got to spend more time with people that I feel like don't get as much attention as far as the classic.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. If he had been there, it probably would have felt a little more crowded in terms of what had to happen. And he is such even more so than the other actors, such a larger than life performer. He just and which is to his credit, he just draws focus. Like, you can't not watch him when it's on screen. So it probably would have been too much to have, the four of them standing around that pillar trying to decode it, and the fifth one coming in. It probably would have felt like too much.
Yeah. Agreed. But we'll never know. We'll never know. So do you have anything else?
Our reconstructed version that we're going to animate ourselves, which will be good.
Do you have anything else on this episode, or should we go to you have the chat window, so if I don't know if anyone's
we can read through some of this.
If they've asked any questions. Or
one thing we didn't note is no, not the mind probe. That was a great
yes, the old mind probe. He's like, God, not the, and you don't know where the mind probe goes. I mean, I think that's implied. And then he's instantly shot. Like, they didn't even, I mean, obviously they don't want to mind probe him because they're hiding the evidence, because,
So, okay, actually, now to that point, were they in on it?
The guard was. I mean, the president must have ordered the guard to kill him, because if they mind probe him, they'll realize he's innocent.
They didn't have a weapon on him. They must have planted the weapon on him.
Yeah,
and
that's how the cops are at this gun Gallifrey. Gallifrey's not a nice place. It really isn't.
That was rough there. All right, let's thank you folks for being.
Oh, wait, before you jump into that, another thing that I did not know, the Doctor is the president of Gallifrey, so he gets awarded. So I don't know if that comes back, like, on his next return to Gallifrey. Is he instantly the president? Does like that? There, he basically is awarded that, and he says, "Yeah, you're in charge until I come back."
I was just trying to think, like, this comes up in New Who, but I'm wrong. He's the president of Earth because of the whole crises that happened. No, I wonder if it does come back. Hey, we'll find out.
See. We will find out next time we go to Gallifrey.
Okay, let's see. So we got a bunch of you guys in the chat room. Thank you guys for joining us and dealing with this strange setup of doing a live show. This is really just how it goes. What do we have here? A bunch of you guys saying that you really enjoyed this episode. I can see why. I think you can tell that we both really enjoyed this, which is kind of cool. So glad to see that you guys are able to chat with each other. Who also all are fans of the show, so that's really nice. What do we have here? Steven says that he thought Liz Shaw probably would have been better. Would have been with Pertwee. That would be really cool. I would have both have expressed just now how much we enjoyed Liz Shaw, and that would have been fun to actually see her. And I would have loved to see, if this was a 120-minute story, which would
If this was 120 minutes and it was just Matt Pinfield just stuck in time, just floating around.
Matt Pinfield?
You said 120 minutes. I said it was 120 minutes, and come on.
Wow. The 90s are back. So Stephen also said, didn't second and third Doctor also not get along in the earlier 3 Doctor story? Yet there's always been that frisson between them as any of the Doctors kind of come together. There's always that little almost like sibling rivalry, which is weird because
it makes like you would expect you fight with yourself all the time anyway, so it's kind of cool to be fighting with different parts of your personality.
Yeah, I think it works out really, really well. We're starting the Turlo fan club, by the way. Just letting you guys know that that's happening in the chat room as well.
Oh, hold on. Now, how many people are in the chat room? A couple?
We got a bunch.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, I don't know. What are people's thoughts on Turlo? Are we alone in hating Turlo? Every once in a while, we hear people agree with us, but do people like him? I'm just curious.
Yeah, let's find out. I'm just gonna put this in chat, even though you guys.
Well, they should hear it. They should hear it. Yeah. So go back to reading the questions, and we'll see what we get.
Let's see. Deborah says she liked Liz. She thought it was good with the third Doctor. Brett says she was all right, but had choice to cut more Joe Grant episodes. I prefer more Sarah Jane on the back end of Pertwee's run. I really like Joe too, though.
You do, but I'll take Sarah Jane over Joe Grant. I think you definitely prefer Joe Grant more than I did.
Yes,
liked her more than I did as a companion.
I don't prefer her more than Sarah Jane, but I just really liked the character. I just thought there was a great dynamic there. She just had a great. I guess she kind of, in a way, reminded me a little bit of what I thought they were going to do with Tegan, but didn't really do. But I
can't remember. Didn't Joe Grant just scream a lot?
There's a fair amount of that too. That's fine.
Right. I don't know. I probably we'll revisit some Joe Grant stories. I think we should definitely do some more Liz stories as well.
Regarding the fourth Doctor being present, Stephen says, my favorite will always be the fourth Doctor. I really wish he could have been a part of the episode. I wonder what his dynamic with the other Doctors would have been. I think we've expressed our opinions there. Deborah says, I also think it was a good thing that Tom Baker was in this episode. I mean, it was nice that the Doctor actually had a presence, but that it was limited.
Right.
I think is kind of the best of both worlds in my case. I kind of actually liked the fact that he wasn't quite there. Oh, Stephen says he was the president from Deadly Assassin. Also talked about it in the Invasion of Time. Right, that does happen in
what happens
Assassin? Whenever the Doctor becomes president.
He was president in Deadly Assassin.
Doctor stuff. I mean, gosh, guys, sorry.
I can't remember. So he was president in Deadly Assassin, and then he became unpresident in Deadly Assassin, and now he's president again.
Now.
So they must be like, they got to work on their whole election system because it sounds like it's full of problems. There's only,
Spoiler, but apparently this kind of comes back under the Sixth Doctor. So I guess we'll find out some more. We have a question here, which is a great. Well, let's see. Regarding the Turlo question we had. Yeah. Okay. So we have a little bit of a mixed feelings here. Stephen says, I thought I liked Turlo until I rewatched these episodes. He's a bit of a twat. Agreed.
Yeah, that checks out.
Chuck says, not a Turlo fan either. Deborah also strongly says she's not a Turlo fan. Alistair says, don't have a strong feelings about Turlo either way. That's probably, we're going to count that in the positive camp.
Yeah. Okay. He needs all the help he can get. Come on.
This guy needs it. Someone also mentioned he's as bad as Adric or something like that, but I just want to again mention the more distance we have from Adric, the more I miss him. So there. What do we have here? Oh, so Brett asks, do you guys have 20 reviews in your iTunes yet? Brett,
we do. We've got more than 20.
Maybe this is great. More than 20. Look at that.
Yeah.
We have a bunch, including
we have a new one.
We have 25, I think, or something like that, 25 or 26. We have a new 5-star review, and as you guys know, oh boy. As you guys know, if you were to write into the old Doctor Who show, we have an email as well. If you write in, we're going to read it on the air and reply to it. If you put in a review, positive or negative, we're going to read it on air. It's happened, folks. So
all right, let's do the new one. Yep, do the new iTunes review first, and the email.
From Andy Pants NYC, who says
Andy Pants.
enjoyable classic Who newbie commentary. You got it. That's exactly
That's
what we're
us.
doing. Andy Pants says it's quite fun listening to these two explore classic Doctor Who. I first started watching the show in 1982 in Indiana on PBS. I know many of these serials backwards and forwards. Probably hard to know them backwards. That's really impressive. I've only listened to 3 so far: Spearhead from Space, Robot, and Castrovalva. Great
Good
picks there. And I'm hooked, he says. Am going to watch from Castrovalva on with them. I just hope they learn how to say Nisa.
Nisa?
Nisa.
I always say
In the chat
Nisa.
room.
Perhaps it's
We've heard
Nissa.
them say it 1,000 times on the show.
It's
Are we
probably
saying it wrong?
Nissa, right? I say Nisa.
I think we just go back and forth because we're idiots sometimes.
No, I think on the show itself, people say Nisa and Nissa.
Nisa. Okay, guys, in that chat room, let me know. Nisa. What are we saying? And are we saying it wrong? While we check on that, we got an email from one of our super friends here. Chris Steps says, "Hey guys, won't be able to attend the live podcast this morning, but I'm wondering if you can talk about your first encounter with Who, specifically classic Who. I first saw it in the early 80s. I remember watching a serial on PBS I now know was part of the Third Doctor story, The Monster of Peladon. In my 3-year-old mind, Doctor Who was people in terrifying costumes wandering around in caves. What about you two?" I think we've talked about this a couple of different times.
This is probably the question
about it again.
The most.
Yes.
But
actually, the question we're asked most is, who are you and how do you
get out of my house. Right.
That old chestnut.
You can't wear that.
You go ahead.
I'll start. I mean, for me, I don't have a memory as specific as like the Peladon reference, but I do know it was definitely Tom Baker. My dad would always be upstairs in the upstairs room, and he would yell down, "Turn on 34!" And you don't know what 34 was going to be. You'd put the channel on, be some kind of hyper violent thing or some weird. My dad was always doing that. And one time I remember him doing it for PBS, and it was the old Doctor Who show, obviously. And it was definitely Tom Baker, and I instantly fell in love with the theme song and even the closing credits. And I remember when we got to this portion where it's the white sort of time tunnel, and that it was like nothing that I had ever seen before. It was totally a mind-blowing thing because it was so weird, and it wasn't like Star Wars, and it wasn't like what I had seen episodes of Star Trek. And I've talked about how I've not watched Star Trek, but it just was like this. It was this other thing, and it just felt so, from like another place. Obviously, it's from England or whatever. But I immediately hooked into the music, and there was something about Tom Baker and the scarf, and so. But I was young enough where I can't remember. Like, I wish I knew. Oh, it was this episode or it was that episode.
Yeah.
I just know it was Sarah Jane, and I know it was Tom Baker.
Right.
And for me, it was like I never knew really when it was on, so I would see it on PBS or whatever cable channel we had. I think it was something out of Newark, New Jersey, where I'd watch it. But that's sort of my memory. And I know you can add to yours.
I have a brother who's 7 years older than me. He used to watch it. It was on our PBS. So, it was probably around this time. Maybe no, it was probably a little bit earlier because I was little. It was still Tom Baker, so it might have been like 81. I was like 5 years old or so. I remember seeing Tom Baker, not understanding a damn thing that was happening. I vividly remember a scene of Tom Baker with his scarf walking down a hallway towards the camera and off.
Wait, hold on, wait a minute. An episode of Doctor Who that took place in a hallway?
I know.
I know. How?
I've been trying to place this scene forever since we've been doing this through all the ones that we watched, and it could have been half a dozen stories that we see. But I just remember that he's walking down a hallway towards the camera, and off to his right, a panel opens up on the door, and there's someone inside. In the wall opens up, and there's a door, and he goes in. A very nondescript thing that, like I said, could have been a half a dozen different stories. I just found it to be weird. I kind of knew. I think my brother kind of explained a little bit of what's going on, but I was like, I didn't get it. It just seems so overwhelming and such a big story. I was intrigued, but I just never came back to it.
Well, the thing that was so overwhelming about it too, is you would watch an episode, so you'd see it, and you'd say, okay, here's Tom Baker, here's Sarah Jane. This is a story, and then maybe the next week you'd watch it, and they're not the same people. The people are all changed. It's different companions. It's even maybe a different doctor. So it was like such a hard show to wrap your head around because they weren't always played in order. Or even at the same time. So you would just see like these pieces, if you like picking up, a huge comic run and just grabbing issues, hundreds of numbers apart. So
I do recall though, to your mentioned the music, definitely the theme song was a thing that was like, oh, this is something weird. This is because it didn't.
Yeah, it's the greatest theme song ever.
I mean, that was great. Yeah, so that was my first experience with it. I knew that I would never be able to watch it because I knew it was a long running thing. There was just no way to see it all. Because like you said, it just aired on PBS whenever, and then I was old enough to like when I got into sci-fi, there's just no way to watch it. Now, thank you. There's thank you to all these streaming services. We can do what we're doing now. And
I really got back into it. Obviously, when I watched it when I was a kid, but then many years went by, and it wasn't, I don't think, until around 2005 or so, when the new show came out, that I then started going back and finding old episodes and watching them.
Yeah. Yep, same here. People in the chat are also mentioning the same thing as well. Deborah says, it's kind of my story too. My older brother used to watch the show on WETA, PBS station in DC, and she didn't get the show then. I totally get that.
Yep.
So when did you come back to it? When did you start figuring out how the show kind of worked and start watching it in earnest? For me, again, like I didn't start watching it until I think the 2005 series had already aired in England and then was coming over here. So then I got to pick it up from there. So
we just got a tweet come in. This is from Discussing Who says, congrats on your 50th episode. Enjoyed watching some of the live view on the YouTube. Cheers. Well, thank you, Discussing Who. If you like Discussing Who and you've watched a portion of this, or you're watching it and you bail, this will be part of our normal feed. So we'll edit an audio episode that will go out for just like our normal episode review.
We'll drop in the sound clip at the beginning and the regular sound effects, just like a normal episode. But it wasn't normal. It was with you guys, and I love that you guys got to give us some feedback as we're going here. So thank you so much for making the time to join us today.
Yeah. So, and if you're listening now and you want to keep going with us, our next story that we're doing is Resurrection of the Daleks. That is going to be on November 22nd.
Okay.
So start watching that now, which is actually okay. So we have Resurrection of the Daleks, and then the last episode of Peter Davison, The Caves of Androzani.
I've
Androzani.
Androzani. I've heard of the story for a long time. I've seen it. One of like the higher.
It is. Yeah. So people often point to this one as one of the best episodes of Who of all.
Is it
time.
Specifically because Davison leaves?
No.
It's actually a good story.
It's a good story. Yeah, it's cool.
Good. I mean, whatever.
I feel like more people probably like Davison than you think. I think that there's a lot of people I know that when they were a kid, that was their doctor. So that they have very high opinions of him. I know somebody that really likes Colin Baker as their favorite, and I have not seen many. I've actually not seen any of his, but anytime I see that jacket, I don't understand it, and I'm worried because we're going there next. So it's like
I was also really worried about the celery, and it's just the celery. I mean, you even got like a good moment with it in the last story you reviewed too, when he puts.
Define good. That's it's okay. Your definition of good's a little.
It didn't become so distracting. I'm more concerned about Colin Baker's hair than I am about his clothing choices.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that because universally, except as this one person that I know that's their favorite doctor. Everybody sort of hates it, right? This is the time of the show, I think, where the money's really drying up and people the BBC's not putting a lot of resources into it, and maybe the stories aren't great. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with us as we sort of struggle through these. But I'm sure there's some gems in there.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you guys again for joining the live chat. If we do this again, we will let you guys know more in advance, like we did this time. In the meantime, if you haven't already, folks listening on the podcast version, you can rate us and review us in iTunes. You can check us out on our website, theolddoctorwhoshow.com. If we're able to save this stream and actually put up a version of it or embed the version of it, maybe we'll do this on a dedicated page there. You can tweet at us at TODW Show on the Twitters, on Facebook at The Old Doctor Who Show. No? TODWS on Facebook.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, sorry.
While I'm talking to interrupt you, I feel like we got to mention Daniel Smith, who was nice enough to draw us a panel. Now he mailed it to us. We were supposed to show it we did not get it. But he did tweet at us the thing. So are you able to show that image? You said you can screen share or something?
Yeah, let me hang on here. Yeah, so Daniel Smith
he tweeted
kind to actually do some art for us, which was
really so awesome. I would like to show that on the feed if we can. And that was very cool. I know how long it takes to draw, and it's pretty awesome to see Tom Baker saying our names, which is awesome.
I am looking here for it.
Yeah, it's in the Old Doctor Who Twitter show account. In our mentions, you'll see he tweeted 4 hours ago.
Oh, there it is. Wait, I just scrolled past it. Coming back. Hang on. And he actually says again, if you still haven't received the comic panel, here's a photo I took before. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. This is live on the air. This is going to be difficult. Let's try.
If the whole thing shuts down, I love you all.
Do you get that?
Yeah, look at that.
There we go.
Thank you. That's very cool. I love comics and I love Doctor Who, and I love myself in Doctor Who comics.
So hopefully that'll just arrive at some point. Sorry, Daniel, that the post office is being the post office, but hopefully we'll get it eventually. But this thing just looks awesome.
Yeah. And if you want to send us something, you can send to P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey 07701. We've had listeners kind enough to send us art in this case, and also we got mugs, which was amazing. And that's why I got into this, was for the free stuff. I love stuff. So yes, look how awesome that is. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Lastly, you can also just email us at theolddoctor@gmail.com. Don't forget that. Super important. Okay.
But just review us. All right, thank you.
Peace. Thank you, everybody.
See ya.
And that's it.
And out. But no, we're not out.
I know. You guys are still here. Oh, there we go.